The last few weeks have been a little weird for me, but I'm back and I am pledging right now to treat this channel like a full-time job, to really commit to providing as much value to you as I can through tutorials, through going on adventures, just taking you along and sharing as much as I can of what I've learned on my journey as a landscape photographer. So, what I want to say in this video is that while my computer was down, I played with Lightroom Mobile on my iPhone, and I kind of forgot that I had that available because you subscribe to the Adobe Cloud, and Lightroom Mobile is one of the options. And I thought, well, hey, why not? Why not see if I can process photos on my phone and see if they come out as well as they do on the MacBook Pro? So today, I want to take you through that. We're going to take the same photograph, quickly process it through Lightroom Mobile on the phone and through Lightroom Cloud on the laptop. And I just want to see if there's any difference or how the user interface is. I am super impressed because Lightroom Mobile has virtually every feature that Lightroom Cloud has. The one thing that I can't figure out how to get on mobile is color calibration. And that's a little bit of a challenge anyway to find on Lightroom Cloud. If you are looking for that, there's a video, I'll link that below, where I'll take you through on how to set up color calibration in Lightroom Cloud. It's super easy, it's just a little difficult to find. But let's take a second, let's go through this photograph on the phone and on the laptop and see if there's any difference in usability and in final outcome on the photo. Okay, let's dive into this. It's good to be back. Okay, here's the photograph on my phone in Lightroom Mobile. And this, like, to be completely transparent here, this is a raw photograph taken with the iPhone. This is an iPhone 14 Pro, and so this is the raw file coming out of the phone. So we're going to work with that today instead of the typical Canon photos that I work with. So the color profile is going to be a little bit different, but we're going to do the same photo on the phone and on the laptop. So the color profile will at least be matched between these two. But this is an iPhone photo, so just to be clear about that. But here you can just kind of see the overview of what Lightroom Mobile looks like. You have your light settings, your exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites, blacks, etc., just as you do in your Lightroom on your laptop. You have color, you can adjust your white balance, you have your color grading, your color mixer. Again, your color calibration is missing. I don't know if there's a way to get that on here. I haven't been able to find it. But you have your temperature, your tint, your vibrance, etc. I accidentally moved vibrance. That's one thing, is we'll see now, yeah, I'm on tint. So that's something about this, is like it's super simple to go in here and accidentally move little dials that you don't mean to. so that's something that I've learned as I'm scrolling through this. You have your blur section, which I'm not going to use on this photograph. You have your effects for your texture, clarity, and dehaze, your vignetting. You can add your grain, and your detail, so sharpening and your masking detail, color noise reduction, noise reduction. I typically don't use those tools here. You have your optics, so your chromatic aberration removal, your lens corrections. Again, I don't really use those when I'm dealing with the iPhone photographs. And then you have your masking tools. So you can still go in and add your subject mask, your sky mask, your brush mask, your radial gradients, linear gradients, all that stuff. Like, all that stuff is still there, which I thought was pretty cool to see in Lightroom Mobile. You have your crop tool, you have your presets, but you still have your auto feature. So if we just click auto, you can see it just brightens up the overall image. But if we were to just come in here, I don't know what exactly I'd want to do with this photo, so I might just go through and process this on a very basic level and just click auto, just for the time being, just so we can save a little bit of time here and compare the final products. And if we do auto, you can just see what it did. It increased the exposure, the contrast, it brought down the highlights a little bit. Might bring down the highlights a little bit more, actually. See, that's super interesting. Like on the laptop, I feel like if I bring the highlights down this much, it makes a huge difference. But we'll try it. Let's bring the highlights down to 20. Sometimes when I have a photo like this, I might just do like a radial gradient around the boat. So if I just select radial gradient and just create one around the boat, maybe make that a little smaller, And then we have, once we create our masking here, we still have all the same controls that we typically would. Bring up the whites a little bit and the blacks down to add some contrast in that boat maybe. We want to add some exposure to the boat, maybe. And then we can go in and one of the little tricks that I like to do on some photos is to do a duplicate and invert. So if we duplicate and invert that mask, it's going to select everything that is not the boat. And then that's kind of a nice way to highlight that subject. And like if I move that exposure down, then we have just some light on the boat there, which is kind of a cool effect. And then sometimes what we might also do, go back into our masking, create another mask, select another radial gradient, and maybe we just put one over the water. I feel like our controls aren't exactly as precise in Lightroom Mobile. I mean, all the controls are there. It's just a little less precise, I think. But everything is still there, which is kind of cool. In reflections, I like to pull up the whites, and then I like to go into clarity and bring the clarity up. I think that's a nice look when we're dealing with reflections. Maybe even more white, a little more exposure maybe. I think it makes those reflections really pop. And then what if we went in here and selected the sky? There's not a whole lot of sky visible here. You can see, I think it selected some of the mountains too. So on the laptop, that'll be much easier to go in there and remove. On the phone, that's a little bit more of a challenge. But it did select the sky, and it did a decent job of it. So then if I go back into light and bring the highlights of that sky down, bring some of that blue back. Maybe bring down the, bring down the exposure doesn't look so good. But if I pull up the whites, I don't know. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look great. I might bring the highlights up. But then what if I went into color temperature, brought down the temperature, just made it a little bit more blue? Or if I go into color, oh no, so okay, so I'm going to set my mask, and then if I go into color, then I can pick my blues and saturate those just a little bit and see what that does. It's selecting the mountains as well, so I don't necessarily want to do that. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that because I don't know. The colors don't look really spot on to me like that. But if I was to do this edit on the phone, it might look something like this. I might go in and add a little bit of vignetting, something like that. So maybe the picture would wind up looking something like this one. I'm going to screenshot that picture so I can compare it later, or obviously the other thing to do is to just export it. So if we save a copy to the device, then it's going to save a JPEG image of this formerly raw photo. You can see it takes a little bit of time for the phone to process that image and actually save it. But there we go. Now that's done. So we'll compare that to the one that we do on the computer. And let's jump over to the laptop photo, edit over there, and just use similar settings and see if this comes out any different. Okay, let's take a look at these two. This is the one I did on mobile, and then this one is the JPEG that I did on my laptop. So you can see that there's quite a difference. It looks like the one that I edited on the phone is quite a bit darker, and I had my screen brightness up, so I don't think that was the issue, but it came out quite a bit darker. So I think what that is the inverted mask. I just made darker because I thought it looked better, and then the one I did on the computer looks like this. So I don't know. I think you can see the one. Yeah, see, this was the problem I was having on the Lightroom Mobile on the other photographs that I did. Is my colors were just not right, and I just couldn't quite figure out how to get them right. And so here the sky. It looks a bit more aqua. I do know that the one, I'll see that now that one looks more magenta to me. But The one that I edited on the laptop looks a bit more pleasing to me. And I wonder what you think as well. I wonder if you have any experience with this. Go ahead and leave a comment. If you have an opinion on which one looks better here, the one we did on the phone or the one we did on the computer. Super interesting. This is how it looked on the phone. This is how it looked on the computer with essentially the same settings. We have a little more control on the laptop, of course. And again, this is not a Canon RAW file. This was an Apple RAW file that we were working with. So the color profile is a little bit different than what I'm used to anyway. What do you think? Do you have any experience with this? Is this something that you've done in the past? Do you use Lightroom Mobile? Do you like Lightroom Mobile? What do you wish it had that it doesn't? And I'm curious, how often do you use it versus using Lightroom on your laptop? Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time, which will be very soon.